You're listening to Double Time, your daily accessible technology show. Now, here's your hosts, Stephen Scott and Shaun Preece.
Hello. Welcome to another episode of Double Tap. It's Thursday. Oh, hang on. I know it's coming.
It is, in fact, not just Thursday. It is Double Thursday. Hello, Night Managers. If you play the Lady A skill called Night Manager, play today because you get double the experience points in every battle. I am Shaun of the Shed on Night Manager. Happy Thursday. Sorry.
Double the points, half the fun.
How dare you, sir? There's a lot of Night Managers out. How you doing, people? We're nearly at the end of the season. Keep battling through.
Listen, you're bringing a lot of new listeners to the show via this, what was it called? Dark Night? Was it called?
Night Manager.
Night Manager.
I mean, I've
platform.
just said it.
Yes.
Yes,
I know, but I don't listen.
I'm bringing it to the show, and you're pushing the people away, saying how terrible it is. It's great. You should try it.
I've never played it. I should, and I will. I will absolutely. Well, I might. We'll see.
Yeah, okay. All right. I expect to see the night called Double Tap on there in the next week.
And thank you to those of you who have been sending in, I have to say, quite detailed emails telling me how to get involved in this game. I almost feel like I have to now, just because people have sent in so much information about how to play the game. It's just
you're not going to do it. I know
games just never really got on. You know, it's like I hear all these consoles. It was like the Game Conference Awards nominations came up the other day, and I was listening to all these categories, and I don't know. I mean, I might be having a bad eye day today or a bad mood day today, but if I'm honest, I kind of think all these games sound wonderful. And of course, I'm talking console games here. They all sound wonderful and they sound amazing. Mm-hmm. And I dream of the day I could play Grand Theft Auto 6. Yes, what an amazing game that'll be. And the graphics are becoming so realistic, and I'm like, I'm going to miss all this. Is there any point?
Wow. Wow. That's quite a statement. Is there any point? Yes, well, of course there is. I mean, you could argue that it's a different experience, and I personally believe that as well. Playing a first-person shooter using audio cues only, isn't that just really a game of reacting to an audio cue? That's it, basically.
Well, it's like, so Ross Minor was on with us a while back. We talked about him playing Forza Motorsport.
Yes.
And he's loving it. He's having a great time. And I'm sitting there listening to him at the time, and then since I've listened to that interview again, thinking, is he just basically working off these audio cues? I mean, he's not driving the car in the sense that, he's visually watching where the car's going. He's going by audio cues. It's a different way of doing it.
It is, but that's not to say it's not still an experience and a fun experience, right?
Yeah. And he's loving it, right? I just think for me personally, I just don't know.
You can't give up the visual side of it. And
I think
get
that's
it
what
when
it
it
is.
comes
I think you're absolute. That is it in a nutshell.
Yeah,
that is it in a nutshell. It's not that I'm not prepared to embrace something different, although I'm clearly not.
No, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, exactly. I just cannot imagine what that is like. It's funny, isn't it? We have these. Could we call them sighted days?
Yes,
where you kind of just imagine. Like I love using voiceover. I love using my Mac. But there's some days you just think, I wish I could just see this a bit more, or do this a bit better, and I could do this so much quicker if I could see it.
All right.
Braille is slow sometimes.
Okay.
Gaming's good, and I can't see it, and it's dreadful.
Stephen, come on. You're amongst friends.
I'm
the Double Tap family. We all have those days. Everything is beautiful
in its own way.
Yes.
Well
done.
Good song that.
Yeah.
Who did that again?
Stop it. Let's leave that there. Talking of
Randy.
the Amazon Echo smart speaker.
Yes. Oh, yes. Today on the show, thank you for reminding me. I can't believe we've gotten to a point in our relationship where you're the one bringing me back on track.
I know. What's happened?
You're the one that was dragged me off the tracks. Now you're pulling me back on. Yes, so David Ward is with us today. He is here to talk to us about the future of Lady A. And it's interesting because we're not talking about gaming or any of those things, not even the skills today. We're talking about the foundational model itself, the Lady A we've come to know and love. And we were kind of expecting by now to see something new, but nothing's materialized. I mean, we've seen the beta of the Let's Chat feature.
Well,
that's
some
been
of
running.
us did.
Yeah, exactly. Not all of us got that, which was a separate thing. You had to enable that, and then you could talk to the sort of the new generative voice. That was, we were hoping it was going to come out this year, but there's been nothing. Now, it's interesting, right? Because I was thinking about there's not been any events, no hardware events for Amazon Echo devices.
No.
But I am seeing updates to other lines. So Kindle has been getting a lot of updates. I saw that. Now, of course, we're coming up to Black Friday. So they're going to be either launching new products or preparing to, clear out the warehouses of some others.
Yes.
But the Kindle line, that got a bit of an upgrade. I think they brought out a new, wait for it, a colour version of the Kindle. Oh,
Okay,
I'm so
stop it.
excited.
Have you ever used the Kindle hardware device rather than just the Kindle app on Windows or wherever else?
So I got a Kindle because I wanted to try the Bluetooth feature, which basically enables voice view. It's a really weird thing, though. I mean, the way they lay it out. So what you do is you get your Kindle. You have to get someone else to set it up because the Bluetooth will connect to your headphones, and at that point you can turn on voice view. But someone has to do all those steps beforehand. So if you were blind, you bought yourself a Kindle to use the Kindle store and download books to your device, which you can do, you'd have to have someone else set the whole thing up. And I'll be honest, the interface wasn't great. Not great.
It just seems to me, other than, well, actually, this is a major point, so I don't know why I'm saying other than the price. I mean, why wouldn't you go for a Victor Reader Stream or a Sense Player or any mobile?
Kindle tablet would be a better option. If it was down to price, I would just buy the Kindle tablet. Or they don't call it that, do they? Fire tablet, they call it. So, I would buy one of those because, okay, the accessibility, we always kind of write off the Kindle. Fire tablet, I keep calling it that. It's because they used to call it the Kindle tablet years ago. But at least I think they did. No. But
I don't know.
I'm having a day today. But the Fire tablet was a really, great entry-level device. Now, over the years, it has improved. There was a period where it was pretty much terrible, in terms of voice view, the screen reader. But it has improved. And, with the hardware improving, at the price you're getting it for, it's something to consider.
I agree. And considering the conversation we had yesterday about, the pricing of specialist tech, I'm tempted to say, well, you get what you pay for in the case of a Fire tablet or any of the Amazon devices, really. I mean, the price point is so affordable. But there are compromises that you make there in the responsiveness of voice view, for example, and the fact that you get a massive advert on the lock screen every time I turn my Fire tablet on, which really annoys me. But then again, I mean, financially, very accessible as well.
And you can pay an extra $10 and you get that knocked off. You can get rid of the ads.
I'm very tempted for the people just to ring up and say, how dare you, and play the blind card.
Oh, you could do that as well, I suppose.
Yeah, I know that's worked for some people. I'm not saying you should do that, but you should do that.
Okay, fine. We'll all do that then. Let's all call Amazon accessibility right now.
But yeah,
so I've seen the updates to the Kindle line. So the new one that's come out, the paper white, I think they call it, and then the color one. So all that, they're bringing out new ones. And also their Fire TVs have had a bit of an update as well. So we're starting to see more of those come out. But nothing new when it comes to Amazon Echoes yet. The story goes that there might be a need for new hardware for the new generative AI. Now, that may change if they do not use their own generative AI and, in fact, piggyback off something like Claude that's been rumored, or maybe OpenAI, or maybe Gemini from Google. Who knows? Who knows where it's all going to go? But the other side of this, though, is because, of course, they're not the only game in town. The Google Nest smart speakers, which have been very quiet on the hardware front there, perhaps because the hardware in them's fine, doesn't need an update. But I can't think the last time I've seen a new Nest Mini, as it's called, come out, or a new Nest speaker. In fact, I had to dig around on the Google website just to find them. And a lot of them are out of stock, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, they do seem to be the forgotten product, right? But yeah, who knows? Maybe they're, let's be fair, because as Amazon are as well, it's all about the AI at the moment. Smart speakers suddenly don't seem so smart anymore when compared to all the AI flash and, razzle dazzle that we're seeing. So maybe it's a case of they're waiting on the AI to catch up before they sort out the hardware. I honestly don't know.
Yeah,
David will. He's going to join us. We're going to talk all about that today. Let's get into some emails, though, because loads of you getting in touch as always. Glendon, I want to pick up on one of your emails first up.
Revisiting the power of the almighty word. Blind folk or not to blind folk? That is the question. Some labels are good and not so good, but they are necessary since all humans really do need labels for their computer-like brains to be able to store and organise their thoughts. In the field of education, students who have learning disabilities but who have developed exceptional learning abilities in certain areas are labelled gifted. This is a common thing to happen when a person experiences deficiencies in one or more areas. They often are able to develop great heights in certain other areas of learning. The reasoning behind this phenomenon is that by losing abilities in one or more areas of our brains, we evidently have more brain space to address other areas in our ability to process information. History has shown that when this happens, the gifted student excels in areas that are more interesting to them, just as a blind person will be able to hear better. It's not actually that our ears are functioning better, but that our mind is working better to perceive the sounds being received. In the same way, it follows that this is why many blind folk excel in areas such as music, writing, and any task for that matter which may be impeded by visual or audio distraction. Tasks which don't require motion and can be done alone are generally great choices for most blind people to excel at, since they don't involve sight for navigation and allow us to be able to maintain and develop better focus. There is another area which I think blind people tend to excel at, and that is their patience, understanding, and compassion for others. I've noticed these qualities in many of our Double Tap listeners' feedback messages read by our truly gifted speaker, communicator, Laura, which brings me to something which I've wanted to say for a while now. I found it a little disturbing when our listeners claim that our Laura is nothing more than an AI robot voice. I suppose it may be complimentary in one regard because the AI bot will be polished. However, the things that the AI bot does not have and will never gain is the ability to properly express human emotion or adapt to communicators who will have different interpretations for the meaning of their words and thoughts. Laura, on the other hand, has an instinctual gift that allows her to understand how a writer would deliver their lines if they were speaking them themselves. Pure genius, I say. But wait, that's also her ability to speed up and slow down and stick in dramatic pauses when effective. A bot will never get that. And that concludes my analysis on Amazing Laura. That's all for now. I hope that everyone has a wonderful week. By the way, Stephen and Shaun, your Friday show was super fantastic, and I got a lot of techie tips that helped me tweak my new OS 18, which has caused me so many problems. And you called it a coffee chat. Big smile. Awesome. Thanks very much, as always. Best, Glendon of Toronto.
Thank you, Glendon. Appreciate that as always. And yeah, I don't know which Friday you're talking about because I don't know when you got actually sent that email in. You know what we're like, but
yes,
I appreciate that.
A coffee episode. So there's definitely a feedback episode. Yeah, thank you, Glendon. Honestly, I don't think I need to comment on the remarks you made there. I totally agree, especially about Laura, by the way. Amazing job, Laura, always.
Yeah. There's lots of people bringing up the subject of employment, though, and I think it's becoming what I'm kind of feeling about the whole discussion around blindness these days is there's nuance starting to come through. You know, for a long time, certainly when I was growing up, I always felt like we talked in very broad themes. We talked about employment, we talked about education, we talked about, you know, these things that were almost monoliths of their own. But of course, you know, and I know it's coming up in the future emails, someone saying, you know, we've got to get past that a little bit and talk about the nuance, like people who are in a job, making sure they can continue in their job. You know, if things change, one perfect example of that is when a company adopts an inaccessible system,
yes, and
you can't use it anymore. What do? You know, so there's lots and lots of nuance in this, and it's important that we don't just get around to the idea of, well, yes, all blind people should be in employment. We all agree with that. I think we can all get around that, if nothing else. Yes. Of course, we want blind people in employment. Blind people want to be in employment, but you know, there's nuances within that. You know, you get the job, but then you're forced to use a system, you know, because all companies have their own systems to use. What happens if the one you're using is inaccessible? Suddenly you have a problem. What if you have, as we said the other day, you know, waits and waits and waits to get access to work funding, you know, government funding for equipment, months or years to wait. So there's lots of nuance, but I think this is where the conversation is developing, and it's a good thing.
How many times have we heard that someone's been given a job offer and now they're waiting 6 weeks, 8 weeks, even longer for access to work, or the company themselves to, you know, communicate with each other to get the, you know, technology in place to make it accessible. Yeah, it's one of those conversations like the cost of specialist tech. It's employment and disability is one of those never-ending conversations, I think. But I think you're right. It has taken a slightly different direction recently.
Yeah, and I mean, on the subject of labels and language, I mean, you know, the thing I always come back to with language is the people who shout the loudest about the importance of language. Must use the right language, must say the important words, must pick the right words out of the dictionary, all this nonsense. Whenever I hear all this, I always think, yeah, these are the same people who will always say, when something's happened to them or something's going on, they often say, "Oh, words are cheap. Actions are what's important." It kind of gets to the heart of what I'm generally saying most days, which is, yeah, words are only part of the story. Ultimately, action is what it's about. When someone says something bad to me or something I might consider to be bad, I'm taking the offense. No one's giving it. So it's down to me to think about my reaction and how I,
context
think about
is
my
always
reaction to it.
king.
Context is everything.
Yeah, of course.
It absolutely is.
Someone can say something that you find offensive. I'm not going to use the word offensive, actually. I'm going to use the word hurtful. Someone could say something that you find hurtful, which actually they didn't mean to. It's just, whatever reason. I'm sure I've done it many a time. You say something without thinking and it hurts someone's feelings.
It's like people who get offended when the word blind is used in the wrong way, or they consider the word blind to be used in the wrong way, which actually, I think, by definition, blind has many definitions. It's not just about sight loss. It's about blind. Ignorance is a kind of classic example of that.
Is it that association which is offensive?
Well, I just go with the meaning of the word. What other word would I use in that situation?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that. If you say someone, a blind injustice, or where does it end? And I said this to you before. When do you get to the point where they say that the word? We used to say things like, if you're sighted and you're talking to a blind person, you can say the words "see" and "watch." Did you watch the game last night?
Watch TV. Yeah.
At some point, someone I can hear it coming now. Some advocate down the line is going to say, "We shouldn't use those words. They're offensive to blind people." Hear it coming. And I guarantee you, whenever it happens, I'll bring it up and I will play the clip and I'll say, "There, I told you it was coming."
Told you so.
And that's a dangerous place to be because, look, we keep talking about attitudes. We keep going on and on about how important it is that sighted people understand and listen and take on board. But then equally, if that person then opens their mouth and says a word you don't like, suddenly the whole thing's up in the air. We cannot move forward on that basis. I'm sorry. We've got to be smarter than that.
Wow. Well, that email threw up a lot of discussion there. Thank you, Glendon.
Yeah.
Ooh.
You know what I'm like today. I'm in a mood today, so I'm picking up on everything. But anyway, Leanda's been in touch with, love to hear from Leanda on WhatsApp, talking about page Braille and some other topics as well.
Hi, Stephen and Shaun. It's Leanda. Absolutely great show once again. Just wanted to come in and say what an interesting talk with the guy who does the adapted Perkins hardware, if you like.
Yeah.
That will be absolutely fantastic for everyone in education. I first learnt Braille in the early 90s on a Perkins, and then we went to the Mountbatten, which was very loud. They say about how loud the Braille and print was, but I can imagine the Mountbatten being even louder. Apparently it wasn't very good for your hearing, so some said. And it used to print out, be connected to a printer and print out line by line when I was typing. And then I went on to the Braille Companion and the Braille Note until I left education in 2007. I also used a computer. I love touch typing, but I was a reluctant computer user because I was so used to Braille. And now I just have the phone. I don't have no computer or anything. I can do everything on the iPhone, and Braille screen input is a godsend. But yeah, that'll make it so much easier for people in education. I would be really interested in seeing some of these other Braille writers, what's available. The only other one I'd heard of was the Perkins Lite, which is very pricey and apparently it doesn't make as much noise. But yeah, interesting. On to games with Lady A. Absolutely love mini games. The Chocolate Factory one and Piranha Tower. I will definitely get into Night Manager. I am on there, but I haven't done much with it yet.
Hooray!
Maybe not a good idea if it's addictive. But Gotcha Pets, they say that's good. I've actually started that, but not really got into it yet. But I'm wondering whether it would be a good idea, actually, for you to do a gaming episode. Maybe if people talked about what games they liked on Lady A or otherwise. I have a lot on the iPhone, which the Blindfold and Ears series, Evelyn's Farm, one called Dusk. I could, go into more detail anytime if anyone wants. But thanks again for a great show.
Thank you, Leander. I appreciate that. Yeah, there you go. I think the gauntlet has been thrown down in gaming terms.
Well, it's interesting, though, right? We have done full episodes on gaming, and they never really get that much interest.
Well, to be fair, that's console gaming.
Yeah, I suppose so.
We haven't talked as much about smart speaker gaming.
Smart speaker gaming, audio games for iPhone, of course.
Yeah.
There's a lot of those as well.
AudioGames.net, that's one that I hear about a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did have a guy on ages ago. I can't remember his name. Goodness me, we talked to so many people, but we had a guy on ages ago who the Rolodex of my mind is spinning, but I can't think. I want to say Spencer, but I don't think that's right. But it was a guy who came on and he wanted to talk to us about his games, the games he played and enjoyed. And we had a very interesting conversation because that kind of sparked a lot of interesting ideas for me in the audio game space. So we should maybe reach out again and maybe continue that conversation. But yeah, please do get in touch and tell us the games you're playing. Maybe we do a gaming episode and we'll all share our ideas. You can WhatsApp, you can call, you can send an email, you can attach audio, you can just listen.
Anything
else?
Thank you,
let's
Leander.
move on because we're going to be joined in a sec with David Ward. But you can get in touch with us here, and here's how.
Get in touch with Double Tap. Email feedback at doubletaponair.com. Leave us a voicemail at 1-877-803-4567. And now you can send an audio or video message to us on WhatsApp. That number is 1-613-481-0144.
Okay, Shaun, let's talk about Amazon and the Amazon Echo and the future of Amazon Echo. I was really excited at Let's Chat, which was this cool new AI feature. And then I hear the story that it may all be getting pushed back to next year. In fact, the beta itself may even be being postponed. So what's going on? Well, look, I think we've got to bring in someone who knows their onions when it comes to this kind of thing. Let's bring in David Ward from the Echo Tips podcast. He is also accessible, or what did you call yourself? An accessible assistive tech trainer?
I don't know.
I know I asked you this earlier, but I've got no idea.
I'm an assistive technology instructor or trainer with New Vision. Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's usually I say, like, who are you and why are you here? And
I'm here to talk about onions. There's many layers to this onion.
We have our onions expert here. Thank goodness for that.
And this may make us cry.
May make us cry.
Very good. Very good. That was good. Yeah, this might make us cry, actually. What is going on over at Amazon? Because, we were all excited about, an upgraded AI, more like OpenAI's ChatGPT. It doesn't seem like it's materializing, does it?
No, not at all. And in fact, I was in the beta program early in 2024, so I got to play with it a lot and put that on the podcast. But late August, I think it was Reuters had 5 off-the-record individuals from Amazon report that pretty much Amazon's attempts to develop their AI in-house for our favorite A-Lady device had fallen flat on its face, and they were completely retooling the back end with their partner Anthropic with what we know as the Claude AI. So that's the rumors from Reuters, and it's only we've got more information since then. Yeah,
it's interesting though, isn't it, that they've had to reach out to for a partner with AI with all the computing power and all the experience that Amazon have had. I mean, they were. Well, depending on where you are in the world, they were first on the market with the smart speaker. And I just find it really interesting that they've been caught on the hop like this, really.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, it's, but going back and playing with the beta that I had and how many times it hallucinated and it, was easy to surface inappropriate information and things like that. I think they started at a wrong premise, and then we're trying to bolt on these safeguards after the fact, while the Anthropic Claude engine is totally tooled in a different way. It has a different approach, which I think kind of builds safety in from the ground floor. And I think that, along with speed and efficiency, they were saying in the Reuters report, like you'd ask the AI engine that Amazon had developed a question, and they'd sometimes wait as long as 6 seconds to get a response. And so I think so many things just piled on, and they just had to say, we have to put this on the back burner and go with something we know could work.
Yeah, and Claude AI is obviously the one that they've wanted to move over to with Anthropic, as you're saying, or at least that's what the rumor is.
Yes,
but
the rumor,
these are not like Apple rumors. I mean, these feel a bit more substantial, right?
Yeah, absolutely. From the point that Reuters released that article, I went back and delved into it, and all the way back when we had that September event, it seems like a million years ago, in 2023, where we had the former Amazon Echo chief that was overseeing that. He was retiring. David, I think, is it Limp or something? He at that same month in that conference where they demoed what it was going to be, there was publications that went out, press releases from Amazon about this relationship with Anthropic, who may have not been very well known back then. We were like, who is this? And about these billions of dollars they were going to invest. But all along they've had that relationship, which now seems to be potentially paying off because they really needed that relationship because they just couldn't develop the thing in-house. And since then, we see from their last quarterly announcements from their CEO, Andy Jassy, the CEO of Amazon, he also mentioned that relationship with Anthropic and Claude and AI and agents and agency or agentic. I got to get the right phrase. Yeah. These new terms we're using for AI. So yeah, it seems to be getting reaffirmed from those rumors we heard from Reuters and TechCrunch and others.
But what are they trying to achieve with AI? I think the only thing I really want is the interaction that AI gives us. That being able to fall over a sentence and pick yourself up without having to cancel and then say the wake word again and then give the command. I want the ability to issue multiple commands at one time. That thing that we're seeing with AI, where you don't have to worry about the phrasing, the syntax of things. You simply talk to it like a human. Now, that's what I want. The ability that the smart speaker has already, the Lady A, is fine. I want it to control my smart home. As for asking questions and things, I mean, what do you think they're trying to get from their version of AI? I don't quite understand.
Well, I think the conversational component is clearly a part of it, which, like I said, their beta, it would hallucinate. I had it saying that Dave won $1 million and announced it on his last podcast. I had it hallucinating, saying all sorts of weird things. So you don't want that. The other thing is, and Claude seems to be much more resistant to that because I've tried to goof around with it, and it seems to be resistant. It's I don't know if they coined this term or this is a term in the industry. I think now it's a constitutional AI. It has so from the very beginning. Like a constitution, we often think of it granting freedoms to its citizens, but it also places restrictions on the government. So as a constitutional AI, there's these restrictions placed on the AI. Okay, don't say this that would be hurtful about, how to rob a bank or how to, surface NSFW content, And it seems to be much better at that. So I think that's a step in the right direction. The other thing is, like you said, is this agency where it can actually do things for you. Like there's probably 50 different ways to say turn on the lights or 100 different ways to say turn on the thermostat and make it warmer in here, and the ability to map those to controls effectively. And, surprisingly, your guys' interview with the Blind Shell guys about Luna, that's one of the first things where I've heard, mapping to controls in something and actually flipping a switch or placing a phone call. So those are the things where I think we really need to meet, the rubber needs to meet the road. Because even in the beta program that I did, there was no sort of mapping to actual actions. It was just conversation, like you said, Shaun, which was cool, but it was just conversation. I want to see where it actually does stuff. You know?
And I wonder about Claude AI, because look, a lot of people talk about ChatGPT. I'm using it a lot these days for a lot of different things, and I'm really enjoying it. And I think especially since they made the website more accessible, by adding the headings capability and the buttons are labeled now. Even though they've brought out the Mac OS app and I think there's a Windows app in beta as well, the apps are not as good. You're much better on the web. In fact, it's actually better if you go into Safari or Edge and just create a web app out of it, which is basically just a wrapper. a WAP, as I like to call it. I don't think that's the official term.
Stop it.
But that's what I call it. And yeah, you could just have that, so you can easily get to, as I do, ChatGPT on my dock on my Mac. I can just go straight to the dock and hit C for chat, and there it is. I can load it up. But what about Claude? Because I haven't, I've tried Claude. It certainly seems accessible enough, but I've found that, I just haven't gone back to it as an option. I think we just sort of land on something that works, so we stick with it. Have you played with Claude?
I have played with Claude, both on the website a little bit, and I've played. There actually is an A-Lady skill where you can play with Claude, although it's pretty restricted. It only allows you to do a few questions before then it tries to upsell you and make you pay for a service or something. So I found its responses pretty good. In par with what I would typically expect. The ability to synthesize information and give it back to me. It's not like I've spent hours with it, like maybe like a ChatGPT where I've had it rewrite things and for me, or write code for me or something like that. So I am a little limited. Once again, I want the ability for it to pull switches and levers and do things. That's what I'm really interested in. And we've had some interesting information in the recent month about Claude agents too. I don't know if we want to talk about that at some point, but I think that's very exciting, just in general, where the AI industry may be moving forward and how our A-ladies can maybe help with that.
Yeah, so give some more information on the agents.
Yeah, the cool thing that came out recently, and it just really bells are going off in Dave's head, is they announced these things called agents, Claude agents, and this is becoming a term where they're like floating this word around, agentic and all this. And I think the premise is agents or agentic stuff is the ability for the AI to kind of do something on behalf of the user or monitor something and then respond almost like a macro. But in this particular case, Claude agents, one of the cool things they announced was that you could install this agent on, say, a Windows computer. And you can go on YouTube and see some demos of some of this. And you would tell it, okay, I want you to take the last the last 10 videos of Double Tap on YouTube and create a spreadsheet of the most recent, a link to it, and how many views it had. And this guy, literally the agent would go out and it would interact and would go back and forth and pull the information, cut and paste it, and build an Excel spreadsheet with that information. It's pretty amazing. So the ability for it to control the keyboard, but for us as blind users, also control the mouse. And it would take screenshots and see where the controls were on the page that may or may not be accessible to us with a screen reader, right? The button may not be labeled. It may be a button, and it could see that and click on it and interact. So I think that the implications for us are pretty amazing, not to mention the ability for, if we think about an A-lady with Claude being able to maybe interact with an agent on a computer, that opens up the world of possibilities entirely, because then you aren't locked into an ecosystem like the A-Lady skills.
Yeah.
Potentially, there's no limits, which I think is very exciting.
And that was always the sell of the Amazon Echo to some degree. I mean, remember this phrase we heard at the time, ambient computing, where essentially you just speak to the air and you get a response back. And that's, in a sense, what the A-Lady is doing at the moment. But if it can go further than that, if it could connect to a bank, for example, what's my bank balance would be a great one to have access to.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe not for
Scary.
my wife to have access to.
Yes.
That'd have to be voice specific, I think. But, another Mac purchase. Okay, I see. That kind of thing. So, you got to be careful, I guess, with information, and there will always be challenges with that. But the point is making information more accessible. The thing is, though, David, we kind of get wrapped up in the world of now and what's happening and all the sort of latest stories. But the reality here is that the Amazon Echo is still a very functional device as it is.
Yes.
But the question is, do you think, because we've been having a bit of a discussion about this between Shaun and I about, what the future holds here. If they don't get AI improved in the next year, because it looks like it's going to be pushed to next year now, if they don't get this sorted out, is it finished? Or do you think that the users of the Amazon Echo don't care as much as perhaps us geeks do about the greater AI?
Yeah, that's a good question, Stephen. I mean, especially for blind users and low vision users, like the A Lady is so cheap. I mean, it costs practically nothing. You practically throw it in with a box of cereal these days when it's on sale. And just the utility for us to be able to like just check the time, our calendar, maybe turn the lights on, off, control the thermostat, certain things that we are often deal with inaccessible controls, right? I think that in itself will always make it just really good for us. For the general sighted community as a whole, I don't know, it might kind of fall back. I mean, there is a huge base out there. I think the TechCrunch article quoted Amazon claims they have 500 million A-Lady compatible devices out in the market. Now, I think they quoted another analyst, a financial analyst, who said there's probably only maybe 100 million of those that are actually, still in service and being used actively by families. But even of that number, if some people were willing to pay $5 a month, that could add up rather quickly for a more advanced AI A-Lady. I think, Stephen, we just got to have to wait and see. Everybody is chomping at the bit. We're waiting for these AI infusion into our favorite Siri. We're waiting for AI infusion. I mean, it's kind of there with Gemini and the Pixels, and slowly, how it trickles out to Android, or will it ever trickle out to some of those phones that don't get updates? So I think we're all kind of waiting to see 2025, how it's going to unfold, and how practical some of these new AI things will be, I think.
Yeah, I do have my concerns. I think if OpenAI, do come out with their rumored device, I really worry about Amazon. But as you say, with that saturation they've had into the market, I kind of disagree with the expert that said about 100 million are probably only 100 million are being used.
Yeah,
I mean, it's part of the culture now. You see it mentioned in TV shows. Lady A. It's built into society. Everyone knows about the Lady A smart speaker. Does that mean it could never die? I don't know, but I haven't seen too much improvement over the years when it comes to the capabilities, I'll be honest with you. And that does concern me.
Yeah, Shaun, the other thing that I hear often fear-mongering or, and it may have some merit is I think Reuters was the one that published that too, was the billions of dollars Amazon lost on the A-Lady. I feel like the figure was somewhere two double digits billions, over a period of 5 to 6 years. But I think there's another way to approach that is Microsoft, it's a matter of public record, over the last quarters have been losing billions of dollars. I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of like 9, but you can check me on that. It's several $billion every quarter on their AI investments. And so they are already have invested so much more money than Amazon did. But Amazon has that foothold. They got 500 million devices out in people's homes. And so I think that's a huge market lead, kind of like the McDonald's hamburger, the 99-cent loss leader, that they're out there. It's just a matter of, are they going to do something with it, or are they going to lose that market share while, like you said, other people move in and scoop up and just leapfrog ahead of them? That's going to be the real question, I think.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's always going to be a challenge, isn't it, to get on top, because, especially if, and again, we talked about this the other day, ChatGPT, or OpenAI, I should say, their product ChatGPT, if that manufactures into a product, that could change the world. However, it is about the integrations, right? And that's something that, as we're saying, the usefulness, that's where the usefulness of the Amazon Echo is. If it was purely at the moment a really good clock and a really good timer, that was all it was, then I think we'd all agree it's finished. But it's not. It has those tentacles into our smart home. Most things are connected through it. And I think that's what will ultimately keep it in people's homes. The price as well will allow people to update, because I imagine, I don't know if you're hearing this as well, but there's talk of new hardware required to run this new system. Is that perhaps possibly what's holding them back as well? They're thinking, let's see how this develops. Maybe with Claude, they don't need to encourage people to buy new hardware, because that is a bit of a tougher sell. If you've got 8 of these in the house, as some of us do, Updating them all would be to get the value of these features might seem a little bit extreme.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, Stephen, and there is more of that move towards. Well, it's just really just not in this space. It's every space. We have these new laptops and computers coming out with neural processing units on board. So supposedly we can have, maybe with Windows, in the Windows environment, Copilot support. So to move some of that processing right there onto the unit, there's privacy things connected with that, but I think there's practical things connected with that too, just ability for it to respond more quickly. Amazon at that event in September 2023 kind of insinuated a lot of that with that Amazon Echo Show 8 they had, where it had supposedly some onboard processing that they were going to kind of start using more and more. Some of the primitive things it was doing was the ability to do facial tracking and things like that. But yeah, the implications were that they were going to be trying to move in that direction. Now, obviously, with having to retool the whole back end and move over to Anthropic and Claude, that's an interesting question, how they'll be able to move that. Can they kind of out, that would save them money. I mean, versus having to run things in the cloud all the time and losing that money. So I can see obviously their incentive to do that. And if it makes it more responsive, then I'm all for it. Definitely. And we get the tangential side effects of privacy and other things that aren't having to go up to the cloud. So, I think we're going to be seeing a lot more with that over the next year to see, suddenly all that stuff we had. Oh, sorry, you got to buy a new one because you need a neural processing unit on board,
Now, look, I'm not going to lie. I'm not overly concerned about buying a new one. I mean, most people, if they're buying one, now, of course, because I'll buy anything. But, I think if most people had to buy one, I think they'd probably be okay with that if the price is roughly the same. And I imagine it probably would be. However, I think I have another fear about this from the blind perspective, which is if they move towards this vision first approach, which is using a screen, that could be a challenge. I mean, I'm not hearing a huge amount of updates on the existing almost just speaker only device. A lot of the devices coming out now tend to have a screen on them. The Echo Spot with the clock, that is now coming out with the screen, obviously. You've got the Echo Show. But there's not much going on in the back end, or at least nothing new seems to be coming out for the traditional Echo Dot. And I just wonder where that's going. Is it going to move in that direction? Now, that's okay. I think it's okay if it does, if I'm honest. That's fine. But as long as the information from the device can be provided to us in full, in the way it would have been on the device without the screen. An example being the weather. If I ask for a 7-day forecast, or even a daily forecast, if it's got a screen on it, it will say, yes, here's the weather, or something like that. And you go,
have a look.
Okay. And what they're suggesting then is, of course, turn on voice view. But that's like the worst idea ever because it's not great. And I don't want to interact that way. I just want the information audibly. I'm asking a device audibly for a response. Why would I want to have to physically interact with the device? So this is something that I hope they can... I almost wish there was an accessibility option which said, just treat this as an audio device, and it would just give me the same information that it would have given an Echo. Do you fear that, or do you think that's an unfounded fear?
I think it's something we got to definitely, as a community, stay involved in and keep them righteous in this regard. Because I don't know if I encountered a lot with the Echo Shows. With the competing product, the Google Nest, I encountered it a lot because they had one with a screen, and almost like every time I talk to it, look on the screen, or I'll pull you a YouTube video on that. I will tell you an oddball thing though that I encounter now and again with my because I have an Echo Dot here on my desk. Is because on the same account I have a Fire TV stick. Sometimes I'll say something, I'll be like, "Oh, we'll pull up that video on your Fire TV." I'm like, "No. That's not what."
Thanks.
That's not what I wanted. So I feel like there could be a little more clear division between those two, or the ability to shut that functionality off. I will say the thing that concerns me more, Stephen, is on the Echo Shows, including this new 8-inch, which I have right over here, the new hotness they were supposed to put the AI on, they are very buggy. I'm just going to say that, Amazon. They're very buggy. I don't know what you guys are doing with the software. You're entirely trying to retool it like you did with the Fire TV stick or what, and like rebuild the airplane in flight. But it's buggy, guys. I mean, interactions with Bluetooth devices and you know, like if I'm doing demos on the podcast, I'm not probably using the Echo Show just because there's just so much buggy with some of its output and interaction. So I think that concerns me a little more than some of the visual responsiveness stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree. I think they're always going to, because of the amount of devices they throw out there, I think there's always going to be that audio-only aspect to some things. I'm not convinced they've totally done with the sort of wearable aspect of Lady A. I'm sure they'll bring something out in the future, and you know the Lady A earbuds, for example. So I'm not too concerned about audio going away. No, but
no, they were horrible.
You know, okay, for their time they were horrible, but they worked. And the point is, I think they're not going to give up on the audio-only aspect of it. I just got concerns that they've got such a stranglehold on the market at the minute. Yet it seems like they're doing nothing with it. Now, obviously, we don't know what's going on inside. And they do, you know, they keep their cards close to their chest. It just worries me, I must say.
Well, hang on. Here's another thought. Why aren't Google jumping up and down on this? I mean, so Google Nest
don't care.
This is the thing I don't understand either, because Google have a lot of devices out there. That Nest device, which was originally the Google Home, that has not been updated for a long time. I haven't heard much about that. Years have gone by. We've barely had any updates to that. And again, it's the same thing. Surely that would be a great opportunity for Gemini to flourish. And again, the benefit there is they have the integration capabilities as well. So you can connect all your smart tech to that. Google could winner chicken dinner this whole thing. That's a technical term, by the way, David.
I have another term for you. This is an American term. Well, maybe it's not. It's maybe a South American. No, anyway, it feels like all these guys are in a almost Mexican standoff because, like,
but no one cares. That's the problem. They're all high.
It's like Google, like you said, has not released new hardware in that space in a long time, but they're kind of like keeping their Nest on life support. They keep shutting off services over there. Like you'll hear now your Nest can't check your email, or now your Nest can't check this. And so, but they're keeping it on life support. And then Siri, on the other hand, it feels like Apple's kind of like limping it along too. It's almost like they're all waiting for the next guy or for Amazon to blow the doors off of things, and then they're like, oh yeah, but we're doing something too.
Someone's got to lead.
Yeah. They're like waiting for the next guy to cross this AI hurdle where he's going to take on all the financial expense of running that, just to see, you know, what they do,
right? Okay,
and whether the community likes it or not. You know, they're like waiting for the next guy to move first. It's kind of infuriating in a way, like. You know.
I think you're absolutely right. Yeah. I think they're playing it safe. As you mentioned, the hallucinations are still a big deal in all the AI services, right?
Yeah.
And we've seen, you know, Microsoft pushed it out, Google pushed it out, and every time they've pushed it out to the general public at some point, they've always quickly had to roll it back again because it's made some terrible gaffe. You know, the glue pizzas or whatever it was with Gemini. And the racist Microsoft AI bot at that point. I think they're all waiting to see what the public will accept. You know, yes, this thing hallucinates, but are the benefits, you know, does it outweigh the negatives there? And no one wants to be the first with that.
Well, while we've got you on this, because there's this other story kicking around, which, you know, I haven't talked about much on the show because it's all rumor as always. And with Apple, I kind of get a bit fed up talking about rumors because we know nothing. But I am intrigued by this story around what the HomePod may become next year. The rumor is HomePad is kind of being touted as the name of basically some kind of tablet device that you hang on the wall, and it will control your home. It will know who's in the room. It will, you know, have all kinds of amazing functionality inside, and essentially, you know, take Apple's smart home up a gear. Is that appealing to you? Does that appeal to you in any way?
I think so. I think up until now, the Apple HomePod Mini and the big, they're fantastic at audio, guys, and you guys know that. You said that many times on your show. They just have a beautiful sound, but they fall short in a lot of the ability for them to like almost like operate somewhat independently of your iPhone. They're like always, your iPhone isn't in range or isn't connected, and everything seems to piggyback on some of that relationship. And I would love to see it get away from that a little bit and be a little more of an independent, ecosystem, like actually be able to take phone calls without my phone being in range or something like that, or read my text messages. And I feel like Apple's really poised. I hoped when they came out with this, I would see this, but it never happened. I felt like they were really poised with the developer community and having been the guys who invented the App Store to really create a whole nother ecosystem there, like an A-Lady Skills Store 2.0, but it never really seemed to come about. So I don't know. I feel like they're in a position, and certainly from an accessibility standpoint, if they implemented a screen, I'd feel very confident, I would say, and they're doing it more or less the right way. And that might be really good, is to have somebody out there that does it the right way, and then everybody else can kind of follow their lead.
I guess we got to see how Apple Intelligence pans out, right?
That is the multi-billion-dollar question, John, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know where. I think about that, where that lands at the moment. Siri, I mean, although I have it on my phone, I've switched everything to US English. I think I'll be getting a green card at this rate, with the amount of things I'm changing over. And it's great, but it's nice to have it on there.
No difference.
But no, I've tried the writing tools; they're okay. I have seen me take and all very accessible, especially on the Mac. Really accessible, really nice to use. All of that stuff. I kind of love when you're, going through, maybe you're typing an email in Mail, or you're typing a message in the Messages app, and it will actually say, writing tools available in Actions. So you bring up the Actions menu, and there it is. I think that's really nice. But I don't know. I'm tempted to just, Command A, copy, and then take it to ChatGPT and just get it to do it for me. I don't know. It's just maybe it's just natural, or maybe because you're starting to trust the other one in that way that you think, maybe I'll just go and use this. But it is developing. Listen, David, we could talk all day. It's been really exciting to learn about what's going on in this world of Lady A. I hope, we have no event this year, which is interesting. Nothing to really speak of, certainly on the hardware front. So we look forward to, hopefully, maybe something by the end of the year, maybe next year early, we'll find out. Yeah, I feel we're just kind of missing something from Amazon this year, for sure. Listen, tell people about how they can listen to you, because, of course, you have that fantastic podcast. The other one, of course, do tell us about the next, I'm hopeless with names, Next Gen Level Access, or Next Level Access, was
Next
that right?
Gen Access.
That's the one. I guess that level was in there somewhere, I don't know where. But listen, tell us about that. I was on it. I should know the name of it, but very kind. I don't know why you asked me on, because I know nothing. But I sat in a room of people, Shaun, who knew stuff, and I felt I just made silly noises and barked.
Just like double tap, really.
Exactly, just double tap. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Basically sat like a clown the whole time.
I'll dig you out of this hole.
Thank you.
Where can people hear you?
Thanks, Shaun.
It's all good. So, of course, you can hear me on the Echo Tips podcast. It's in its 7th season, where we talk. It's a weekly podcast about things on your Amazon Echo. And I was really hoping to debut all sorts of cool AI stuff this fall, but it looks like I'm going to have to wait till the spring or next year. And also on the Next Gen Access podcast, we just completed our first season. We'll stay tuned and see if we'll have a season 2. But I think season 1 alone has a lot of really great discussions with folks like Shelley Brisbane, Robin Christofferson. We had a lot of the YouTubers like Sam of The Blind Life, and Carrie, who I know has been on your show many times. And it's just fun to sit around and kick the tires and say, what would I like to see in JAWS? What would I like to see in VoiceOver? What would I like to see in Zoom text? Or it's just really fun to see these really smart people just we just sit there and we chew the fat and we talk about, what we'd like to see next. And what's hilarious is now you see a lot of this stuff, you hear Freedom Scientific and others saying, oh, well, in the 2025, we're going to be doing yada, 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 Yeah. So it's kind of fun to see some of those things unfold in different ways. I don't know if we influence that at all, but it's good to see, the thoughts about where we want things to go. And so that podcast has been a lot of fun. Yeah.
Listen, I think all the stuff you do has impact, because I see people talking about it. I see people, on Mastodon especially, which is thriving, of course, with lots of people, very smart people on there talking about accessibility. It's all about adding to the discussion, and we need more of it. So, long may it continue.
Yeah, you do a great job, David.
Oh, well, thank you, Shaun. I appreciate it.
And thank you for sharing your time with us today. Really appreciate it, David. Come back soon.
It's been my pleasure, sir.
Always good to chat with David. And since recording that conversation, we have heard news about Google Gemini and updates that are coming that may come to the Google Nest Mini and Google Nest speakers. I have to be honest, going to the website, as I said earlier, I went to the website, they're all out of stock. I'm kind of wondering if perhaps something new is around the corner. I mean, it won't be anything massive, I would imagine. I mean, it'll be the same device, but with better innards, to quote a Shaun Preece.
Nice. Yeah, I'm not even convinced they need that. It's
probably not.
It's a lot of extra processing power for their computers, cloud-based computing. It's if they've got the infrastructure to actually handle that or not. Or
you say this a lot. Do you think that's what it is? You think that's why they haven't rolled this out? Because ultimately everyone would start using it and it would overload the system?
I think AI takes a hell of a lot of processing power compared to the machine learning that we're using right now in the current version of smart speakers. I think it's a scale, 10 times, 100 times. I have no idea. But yeah, I absolutely think that's the reason. Otherwise, they would just do it straight away, switch over. I mean, a smart speaker is basically just a microphone and an internet connection. That's all you need. And all the computing power is done on the other side. So yeah, I don't know. I have been trying out the new Gemini app on iOS, by the way. That's just released. Got to say, it's very good. It's very similar to all the others, as all these AIs are at the moment, but very real-time, interruptible conversation mode, very accessible, and it works well.
Okay, interesting. Well, look, we're almost out of time. In fact, we are out of time, so we'll say goodbye, but keep in touch, and thanks to David for coming on. Thanks also to all of you for sending in your voicemails and your emails and your WhatsApps. We will get to more of them, I promise. We could honestly just sit here all day going through all of the conversations that you guys start on the show, because it's not just comment, it's conversation starters every single time. A new fuse is lit every time someone sends an email. That's why we
don't get through so many of them, because we have a 10-minute discussion between each one.
I love it.
We love them.
Yeah. Listen, thanks for being there, guys. We'll do this again tomorrow. Catch you then.
Thank you. Bye-bye.